Great teams do not hold back with one another. They are unafraid to air their dirty laundry. They admit their mistakes, their weaknesses, and their concern without fear for reprisal. Patrick Lancioni. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jürgen Moors. I'm a strategic advisor, a consultant, and a coach. And you are part of a 30-day live stream on intrapreneurship. And today, and you probably already guessed it a little bit with the quote that I started with, we will talk about how do you build and lead an intrapreneurial team. Now, first of all, why is this important? If you have or at the beginning of your journey as an entrepreneurial leader or as an entrepreneur, you probably take on smaller projects. So you will also have to rely a little bit on other people, I said, because you're not the only one. You only have 24 hours a day. So many reasons to involve other people in it. Now, with smaller projects, you do not rely necessarily on a big team, or you have to build and lead a big team. But as your journey evolves, as your responsibility and responsibilities evolve, and as you want to create bigger impact, you will have to learn to build and lead an entrepreneurial team. And there are two facets. One is it can be indirectly, where you're not necessarily their hierarchical boss or you're not in the hierarchical line, but as your career evolves, you also generate your own entrepreneurial team as direct leader, as hierarchical leader of a team. And then you have to make sure that they also share to a certain extent or contribute to a certain extent to your entrepreneurial efforts. Meaning you have to create a very effective and entrepreneurial team, and you'll have to lead that as well. Because you can create it, but because if you make the wrong decisions, you will not lead it, but you will rather destroy it. And that's what we'll also focus upon in this session. We will look at how you build it, what are things to look at, what are things to look out for, what's important, what's not. Now, if you look at what defines an entrepreneurial team, then to one extent, we can reflect to the very first week and the second week of this 30-day live stream, because a lot of the traits that we discussed that you find in an entrepreneur, you typically also find in this in a team. So there is this urge, this drive for innovative thinking. There needs to be this drive and this urge to take risks. There is this drive and need to cooperate and work with others. So all of those things and all of those elements that we discussed earlier are also part of an innovative team, of an entrepreneurial team. But there is one big, huge difference. They also have their growth mindset. There are also personalities, but as long as there is one person, it just remains there. But now you have a different person, so you get to the interaction. People can differ because they have this entrepreneurial mindset. They want to get things done. And if they are not aligned, you are spreading them in all kinds of different directions. And also, your results are ending up in all kinds of different directions and not necessarily where you want. And sometimes they even counteract. So, because of your creation of a team with different personalities, with different persons, you get team dynamics. So, it is important that you align the team dynamics. It doesn't mean that you have to be the dictator who really micromanages each of those entrepreneurs, because that is exactly what you don't want. As an entrepreneur, you enjoy your freedom, taking autonomy, having impact, taking responsibility. This is the same thing that your team of entrepreneurs actually desires. Some of them from the beginning when they join you, with others, you have to cultivate it because they were never exposed to this in a previous job, or they didn't know or understand that they had this in themselves. So it is crucially important that you start guiding a group of people who can work as separate entrepreneurs, meaning you have to help them. And then you have to focus in on several aspects, meaning those people have a growth mindset, and that is where you have to assist. Help them grow. Be the mirror if they need the mirror. Give them positive and corrective feedback. It doesn't mean that they have to realize a project as you want, because then we are back in the ego aspect. Because we are leading a team and you are giving them freedom, the whole ego aspect for you as a leader becomes truly important. This is a time when you switch from being an entrepreneur on yourself towards being a leading entrepreneur. Is again a time where a lot of personal growth, personal reflection is actually coming to the front, and you will be confronted with. Now, they also have different thoughts and ways of thinking about innovation and creativity. But like I said before, and as we discussed earlier, to be successful as an entrepreneur, you need to build up a whole portfolio of innovation from incremental that will also fund your bigger projects, breakthrough and radical. And if you have a team of people, some people feel more comfortable with, for instance, the incremental aspect. Others will feel more comfortable with the radical aspect. So the fact that you have this portfolio allows you to position the entrepreneurs in your team also in this different direction and to develop them into other directions. For instance, somebody who just starts as well, you let them start in the incremental area and you slowly develop this person to become maybe a breakthrough or a radical innovation entrepreneur over the course of time. So developing people, making entrepreneurs of those people becomes your major task at this time, and making sure that you manage, that you guide, that you lead the team in a certain direction, and that you make sure that what you are confronted with, that you have to quit your ego, that you learn, that you give them feedback, that they also have to look at their egos, that they will have to personally develop, that egos of those different strong characters are not colliding all the time. Now, when you look at, for instance, the big project, my pièce de la résistance, I had a huge team of people. I built a lot of intrapreneurs in that team. And now, how do you start something like that? First of all, if you look at a successful team, then it is not a team where you all have copies or clones of yourself. That doesn't work, because then you all think alike. That means you will make mistakes because everybody either doesn't see the same mistake or has learned a certain behavior that not allows them to see that mistake. So when you actually bring together a successful entrepreneurial team, you need to look at the fact that you have a very diverse team. And diverse team means they can have very different backgrounds. If I was operational in a manufacturing environment for a chemical industry, typically there were a lot of engineers active. So I tried to bring on board different types of engineering degrees, not typically the chemical engineers, but chemical engineers, electrical engineers. I even had a physicist. So I had people with a very practical degree. So make sure that you actually bring together a broad, diverse portfolio of team members with different types of background. Some people that spent maybe a lot more time in a institute or a university. Some that actually came from manufacturing. Some people play a lot of time or spend a lot of time in engineering. Sometimes it's good to bring people from externally in there. It is very important that you have a very diverse team, because they have different views, and that's what you need. Because innovation, I talked about that before, for yourself. The more you know and the more you're exposed to different technologies and different fields and different industries, the better it is to think associatively. Now, you cannot gather all the knowledge of the world in your mind. So if you bring it together in your team, the chances that your associations and that you bring in knowledge from externally and broaden this base to think associatively inside your team of entrepreneurs, that makes you a very, or creates for you a very powerful driver of your entrepreneurial engine as a team. So make sure you have a good combination of that. Now, if you select team members, a lot of time people look at their past or what their qualifications is, um, but Remember, you're trying to build an entrepreneurial team. Reflect to the traits that we discussed before: a growth mindset, uh, the ability to cooperate and discuss with different stakeholders, internal, external. Think about the aspect of communication. Think about innovative thinking. Think about all of this, those different aspects. And if you think forward and bring this into a team, that means you're looking to create a certain culture in this team. A team that has a lot of autonomy, people that have a lot of autonomy can work in there, are not afraid to ask for help, are not afraid to put away their ego, who want to step out of the light and let somebody else in that light for a while, who help each other, because you don't need individualists who just do one thing. No, they need to help each other. They need to be fostering and being resourceful, even with scarce resources, and not, you don't want complainers. They need to have the passion to change things and to have impact and to contribute, and not always expecting something back immediately. It's the long-term journey that they are on board of, and not for the short-term gain of a career step or a raise. So basically, you're creating a certain culture, and that means that if you look at people, maybe the qualification is not necessarily the top qualification that you're looking for. But if you have somebody who has the basics, who you think will perfectly fit into that culture and will go that extra mile, he or she will probably acquire that knowledge. So hire to fit to a certain culture that you're aiming for. And in this case, it's an entrepreneurial team and an entrepreneurial culture. Hire your people and look at, do they have what it takes to be part in that, to receive feedback, to fight inside closed doors and walk out as best friends, because you are fighting for the cause of a project, of an innovation, of the team, of the unit you're working for, and you never take it personally and never fight it personally. It's so important to hire for culture and not necessarily for one single task. It doesn't mean that you can never hire somebody for a single task. Depending on the role that you, for instance, need to have covered, you can hire for a very single or very specific task. That's also what I did. Sometimes I really needed somebody who tackled a certain topic, and made sure that the rest of the team did not have to worry for that. So I hired that person with a very specific skill to tackle that task, and I only made sure that he would fit into the team and into the culture. But I hired this person for this very specific task. But most of them, they were, in the long run, what I call all rounders, and were not afraid to learn something new when it didn't fit necessarily what they were knowing. They need to be passionate with the result and with the goal. And this was in the case that I always, in an interview, described the vision that I had, this 10-year vision where I wanted to go. And then I asked them where their parts of their passion go inside it, so they understood, when I join this team, it's to realize that dream. And that was the most important for me. And this is the culture that I will go into. I told them often, I am not the micromanager who asks you every week and every day, where are you? I expect you to deliver at the end of the year or deliver at the end of the project. And if you have a problem, you come to me. It was the culture that I was looking for. I could not micromanage 50 people. That was impossible, and it would not work. And it brings me to the aspect of, okay, what are now typical leadership styles? How do you work with objectives? How do you work with communication? Well, leadership styles, you probably already think that you already understand that micromanagement is not a style that you need to adopt. It doesn't work. People need to be free, need to be able to do that. One of the leadership styles that does work, and that I am a huge fan of as an entrepreneur before, is the servant leadership style. That is making sure you help people, and help people meaning in all kinds of different ways. If they come to you and say, "From Jürgen, we got a problem with this unit, they don't cooperate with us," dive into that topic and understand why. Is there a miscommunication? Do the goals not align? Help them in that. If they need resources, whether it's money, have their backs. Make sure you continue your work. I, as a leader, I will worry about the resources, and I'll make sure you have your resources. If you need a certain cooperation, if they say, "From Jürgen, I'm stuck here, I need a partner, internal or external or external, who can help me solve this problem. Make sure you dive into your network, internally or externally, to make sure that they can have this support. Be their go-to place if they have an issue or problem, but also to celebrate, because they know you will celebrate with them. That is also really, really important. And this also means that giving them feedback, helping them grow, because if you serve your people, you want to develop those people to a level that maybe even goes above your own level. Because I think a successful leader, a successful entrepreneurial leader, is a leader who can put his ego behind and understands that if from his team, let's say it's a team of 10 people, 5 are chosen to move up the ranks even higher than you are, then I think you've been a very successful leader than trying to be the one that rises and try to keep the other ones behind. When I look back in my last team, I never stopped anybody when he or she got an opportunity that would help them in a different step. And I would have a fair discussion with them where I said, look, this is a huge opportunity for you, but be aware of potential pitfalls. I would be honest about the pitfalls, but it would be their decision. I would never stop them. And if they would take the decision, I would let them go and would even support them. And a lot of my people rose through the ranks of the company rather fast. I've seen half of my team leave because they got opportunities, because people, other leaders, other vice presidents started to see what was going on and what those people actually performed. So, and that brings me to the second leadership style, that is transformational leadership. Transformational leadership, and that means you transform them into becoming very successful entrepreneurs and very successful people inside the organization. And that is noted by others. And others will, like other vice presidents in other units, will look at those people, ask those people to come because they've seen what they can do. They see that they can bring transformations, that they also transform themselves. So transformational leadership is transforming those people and transforming the team as well. So be aware of that. That is one of your most important things: servant leadership and transformational leadership when you lead um, an entrepreneurial team and when you build it. You need to be fair, of course, very clear with your objectives. And this is short term, mid term, long term. Long term, for me, the vision was very clear. That is where we wanted to go. That was clear for everybody. This was where we ended the most digitized unit. That was our goal. Then we had steps in between. We want to be there in 5 years, because at that point in time, we want to be able to do this and this. We want to be able to get that much amount of savings to fund the next 5 years. And this is what we want to do in 2 years. And then, of course, you have your objectives on a yearly basis. And that's how I worked also with my teams. We had our yearly goals. We had then 2 or 3 year goals, because if you were responsible for a project where we were building, for instance, a certain asset, in this case, for instance, a complete automated cooling tower, from engineering or design and engineering to actually getting into operation, that took 2 3 years. So you cannot say from that it needs to be ready in 2 years. No, you were um, you had to adhere, of course, to the normal flow, but they had to be aware from, okay, do I have a certain backlog? Are we getting into a problem with our timelines and stuff like that? That's the moment where they needed to contribute. But one thing that I learned to them is that you're not only contributing to your projects. Typically, in their goals, there was also contribution to the team. Building this entrepreneurial team, they either needed to help, or they need other people. They needed to coach other people. They needed to coach the shift people, the operators, technicians. So they also had to spend a lot of their time, or a certain amount of time, not just on a project, because then you create just people who are focused on their tasks. I wanted to also be able to lead entrepreneurial teams in the future, so themselves. So I needed to train them to, okay, you also have to you have to pay your contribution to others, and this can be helping other by coaching others, like I said, or also by helping others who are stuck in their projects, and you know that you have a good idea, just be there. So this was really important for me. The contribution in their project was one of the big chunks, of course, but contribution to the entrepreneurial team that I was building, giving feedback also towards me, and towards the function of the team. This was for me really important, and that brings me to the last aspect of that, and that's fostering open communication towards me, from me, receiving as an I would receive communication, but also towards the whole organization, whether it was internal or the organization external. But they encouraged the fact that they could share ideas, they could fight about ideas, but if they would leave the room, everything would stay, and we would be friends walking out the door again, and have a beer outside, because it was for the cause and it was for the team that we were working on. It was not on a personal level. And every time when you notice that something gets personal, that's the moment where you have to act as a leader, as an entrepreneurial leader, to make sure that your team stays on track, because you cannot allow it to become personal. But this takes also from you again the ability to understand the difference between the ego and somebody without the ego. You really have to understand it. But open communication is in all cases really important, and it also reflects to the goals. And if you see that certain people are not fulfilling their goals or are falling short of their goals, we typically had one official appraisal moment every year, because also your bonus was linked to that. But I had a one-on-one with most people every month or every 2 months, and if I could see that they would not perform in a certain major area, I would always address this way in advance. So by the time we got to the actual appraisal moment, it was not a surprise anymore. It could not be that you did not see it coming. No, no. We talked about it a couple of times. You decided to not do anything with it. Why? Now explain me why, because this is the consequence that you actually have to face now. And then you will have a lot of challenges. Like I said in the beginning, building an entrepreneurial team also means that you will work a lot on yourself, because it's not easy. You will have conflicts. You will have issues with resource allocation. You will have sometimes have to choose, because resource allocation, you can say from I will go for when times were running really well and the economic environment was okay, there was no problem of always getting the resources that I needed, whether it was financial or it was the people. This was not the issue. But as soon as it was, a little bit more economical turmoil, I could still get most of the resources that I wanted, but not all of them. And this sometimes meant that I had to prioritize one innovation, one cluster of innovation that was part of one of my team members to in comparison to others. And then it's important to also explain and make clear why this is. Maybe it is something that contributes faster, or maybe it has more impact, or maybe the importance is just in the long term picture more important. So this is something that you also have to bring. But again, also here, like I did with the appraisal moments, it should not be a surprise. In this case, also when you see conflict arise, when you see problems, when people walk out the door and you notice there is still something there, talk to them, bring it to the table immediately in a small group, never in public. I always say, handle or tackle a problem when it's still a mouse. Don't let it become an elephant, because then you get a problem. Getting an elephant out of the door is impossible, because the door is simply too small. Getting a mouse out of the door, it's easy. You can get 50 mouses through one door. So tackle a problem as long as it's still, or a conflict when it's still a mouse, and not when it is a problem. And sometimes you can have hired 50 people. You can have tackled many conflicts, but sometimes there's always the possibility that you have a fit that is not there, that the person doesn't fit in the team, that a person, for whatever reason, suddenly has a completely different focus. And then, as a leader, it is also your responsibility that underperformance doesn't affect the rest of the team, that continuously making conflicts doesn't affect the rest of the team. And then you have to take the fall, or you have to take the responsibility and say, we say goodbye to this person. And that's also something that I had to do. There, I had a person that was systematically underperforming, creating problems for others. And no matter whether I would onboard other people, the first thing in the first appraisal moment after a couple of months, that I talked to them and discussed with them, they would complain about this person, because they felt that this person was blocking everything and everybody. So it was my duty to say goodbye. And in the um, company and in the Belgian environment, it's not so easy. But in the end, I had to say goodbye to this person, and this means for you it is never personal. If you take such a decision, it should never be personal. And for me, it also was not personal, but it wasn't easy because I knew it would affect him and his family to a certain extent at that time. So, but those are the things that you have to decide. Also, when you have to stop a project, it can be that a certain project is not working, and that you keep on putting money in, and that you see this person is emotionally attached to a project. Well, then you have to emotionally detach this person, and doing that is not easy because you want a project leader, an entrepreneur who loves with a lot of passion to bring forward their project. But if you see that it's going the wrong way in the long run will not end up how it should be, because there might be technically some impossibility where you need 10 years more of development, and you have to bring this person also to the level where you say now we have to emotionally detach, we have to let this project go. And this is not an easy way, but this is also for this person importance with their growth mindset and in their personal growth as an entrepreneur, that they can let go of these projects as well. Because I had to do this in the past myself. People taught me to do that as well. It's not easy, but you have to learn it your people as well. And I shared a lot of the practical approaches that I had over the last couple of years with you in this one pièce de la résistance, or this masterpiece project, because it was not only the masterpiece because it had so much impact and it brought so much to the company that I was working for. But at the same time, I also, but all the things that I talked to you about, I also learned a lot about that. It was a very, this size was also for me the very first time. So there were a lot of things that I learned, but I had a huge baggage that I could take with me. Means that you can tackle a lot of this stuff also a lot easier once you have this baggage with you. And this sums up or wraps up a little bit the day where we looked at how do you build a team, how do you manage a team like that. There is, of course, I can talk hours about this, but this is for other sessions that we can do about it. But if you look at it, no matter where you are in your journey, think about back about the experiences that you had as an entrepreneur that was led by somebody else in an entrepreneurial team, where you can say from what did this person right and what did this person wrong, what can I take with me and what should I definitely not do in the future. And the other thing is from, okay, what does it mean when I'm gonna do leading team? What is one of the key elements where I'm gonna focus upon? Think about that. And with that, I see you tomorrow in the 24th day of this 30-day live stream on entrepreneurship. And tomorrow we're gonna focus a little bit on how do you measure success and how do you measure impact for yourself, but also for the team and for the innovations that you try to bring. So I'd like to see you tomorrow. Bye bye.